today is growing together, and what is that like? And we're tying up Marriage Enrichment Week here at Wounds to Scars. We are going on to do some growing together, and what is we're moving on to do some deeper work around marriage enrichment. So we're doing a relationship, well, not just marriage enrichment, relationship boot camp. The details for that will be on our website at woundstoscars.com. It's April 13 to 18 to 19 rather. And I'm a speaker. I have couples therapists that are speaking male and female, and we're coming together to talk some more about this idea of marriage and not just marriage enrichment, but tools for relationship. It's free to it's going to be done in the Inside Out community, our exclusive membership. If you want to be a part of that community, you can join. The link, the details for that will be on our website as well, but I'm also going to share them in the chat. You can learn more and register. Email us at the moment. The way you can register is email admin@woundstoscars.com to be a part of that boot camp, relationship boot camp, because I realized from this week that there are more questions, there are deeper places that we can go with this. The very first presentation that day will be by myself, and I'm talking about your money story. How does your money story show up in your relationships? This week, when I was sharing on connection in marriage, I realized that, and I shared the statistics around the reason for divorce, and money is a big one. And even though money is a big one, we still don't talk about money. So we want to have these conversations that are going to be life-changing. We want to know that we can have relationships where no conversation is out of bounds and we can talk about the real stuff, right? Without being afraid. So what we're doing is giving tools to be able to do that. Okay, so today is growing together. How do we not grow apart when things are happening? Because we're all growing. We're all growing, right? So this is the final session of our marriage enrichment week, and today is growing together. Strong marriages aren't built by staying the same, because we don't stay the same. We're all growing. We're all changing. I've been married for 20 years, and the woman who my husband married is not the same person I am today. And he's definitely not the same man. I love the growth that has happened in him, and I love the man that he has become and is becoming. And it's it's a taken for granted assumption, or it should be a taken for granted assumption that we're going to grow. We're going to grow spiritually, we're going to grow emotionally, we're growing in many different ways. We're in different seasons of life. So how do we do that, these transitions, and stay connected? So do you feel like you and your partner are growing together, or are you growing apart? Some people unfortunately grow apart, and I'm hoping that from today we'll be able to have some tools to be able to grow together. So what does growth in marriage looks like? Let's talk about that. So marriage is not static because we as people, we grow closer or we drift apart. Different seasons and different things in life can bring that type of change. So the reality is we change. We're all changing. As I said before, people change over time. There are different seasons in life, responsibilities change, identity evolves, healing happens, and healing changes us. Healing expand you and grow you. So if you're here and you're healing and you're married and your partner is not here, share the link with them, watch the videos together, talk about it together. Because as you heal, you're becoming a different version of you. So the challenge is it's growing we want to grow in the same direction. Everybody's growing. We don't have to grow doing the same things, but everybody is growing. So why couples drift apart? Some common reasons: lack of intentional connection, unspoken expectations, emotional disconnection, which we've been addressing this week, difficulties in managing conflict, um, and not having enough repair tools to be able to repair when things happen. But so the drift is unintentional, But these things are happening all the time because life is constantly evolving. So the drift is unintentional. But growth requires intentionality. Healthy marriages don't just grow by accident. They grow through constant effort, consistent effort, small daily choices and sacrifices, prioritizing the relationship. And as I was talking about gardening just now, and that my roses, the roses and the flowers didn't bloom as beautiful last year because they weren't pruned. But this year I'm intentional and I'm pruning so that I know when summer comes, they're going to bloom beautifully. It's the same thing with our relationships. We have to do that work of pruning and nurturing, making sure the soil is rich and nutrient dense so that the relationship can grow. And everything that we've been talking about this week are those things that makes the soil rich. The responding to bids for connection, the understanding emotional regulation, the understanding our communication template, like we learned yesterday, how we communicate and why, regulating our emotions and being able to learn and cultivate the tools to be able to communicate confidently. So the Gottman say friendship is the foundation for relationship, right? So strong marriages are built on deep friendship. And this includes knowing each other's world, sharing life experiences, and enjoying time together. So, but I can't share my world if I don't know it. So I won't be able to let him in or let anyone in. So we know our world and share our life experiences. That means I have to go have experiences to share, you know, to share with my friends so that our friendships can deepen. So couples who stay connected keep learning about each other over time. Over time, we get to know each other, my experiences, your hobbies, your interests, the things that matter to you, the things that you love doing, and over time, that friendship becomes deeper and deeper. Emotional growth means being open and vulnerable, sharing feelings honestly, and supporting each other's healing. And the first two that I just mentioned, the vulnerability and honesty. If you listen to, I've not taken these down off YouTube, I'm keeping them up this week. If you listen to yesterday's talk and Tuesdays, you will get some of those tools, and Monday as well, around vulnerability and understanding and being able to communicate that effectively to your partner. So growing together through conflict is what we touched on Tuesday. Healthy couples don't avoid conflict, they grow through it. This big thing come and we're struggling with it, and we're going to each tackle it, not allow the big thing to separate us, but we're going to become united against the big thing. Whatever that big thing is, whether it's finances, parenting, families of origin, life, whatever it is, we're going to unite against it and not let it separate us because life is so uncertain and curveballs happen, big challenges drop in our laps, and we don't always know how to manage those. And sometimes those big things can present as a wedge between a couple. But if we unite against it, then it will pull us together as opposed to pushes us apart. So one big thing I know that is it tends to couples drift apart sometimes, and if it's a big loss, whether it's a loss through a child, a parent, a loss through bereavement, sometimes that big thing can, couples can drift apart. Sometimes the big thing is a job loss, unemployment, something big in the family, sometimes those things. And you will know the big things that have come at your door in your relationship and what did it do to you, you know? And how can we learn to we learn as we go along. We learn as we go along, that big thing. And I think, it takes a lot of intentionality, as I said before. The Bible said, let no man put asunder with marriage, right? And sometimes we're that no man. Our origin stories, our family of origin issues, our coping strategies, our trauma responses, our attachment injuries, sometimes our inner child that has not been healed is the thing that is putting asunder in our marriage and is causing us to not grow together. So if everybody has to know what that is for themselves, what's my origin story? What's my family of origin issues? And sometimes we're so precious about our families that we do not want to be honest with the fact that we weren't connected with our mother, whether my father and I don't have a good relationship, that there's dysfunction in my family. Sometimes we are so precious about our family and pretentious even that we do not want to be honest about it, and we can't even be honest with what we bring. And so what sometimes couples do that are really selfish or unhealthy in a healthy cycle is will point the finger and say your family, as opposed to let me look at what I bring. What did I bring to this relationship? What are the things that I bring and could be contributing to an unhealthy cycle in this marriage? It's really important for everybody to do that work and to know that for themselves. When I don't do marriage counseling, but when I'm doing one-to-ones, I can hear how your trauma, I can hear how people's trauma would have shown up in marriages. Sometimes if people are married and their husbands are open to it, we'll do a 6 sessions together out of we'll be doing our one-to-one, we'll do 6 sessions together, and the couple will leave, the partner will leave, and then we'll continue because it shows up. That this connection with your father will show up in how you love or receive love. We did that 2 weeks ago. And for those who are in Inside Out that have access to the replays, go back and watch that if you're sitting with what happened to me and how did I take this with me and it's stopping us from growing together. So another way to grow together is to support individuals' growth, support the next person's growth. Each partner is still an individual, even though you're married, but you're still an individual. You have individual gifts and talents. You have individual purpose. God will unite us with your purpose, but you have an individual purpose. And this is where sometimes maybe Christian couples may struggle because we're socialized in our religious circles to believe that the man should lead the ministry, the man should he's the head of the home. That doesn't stop him from being the head of the home if your purpose means that you're at the forefront. And I'm not only saying that because that's our dynamic, where my husband is in leadership in the church, but my purpose have me here doing workshops. I travel and speak. I do training. I'm the one that's visible, right? My purpose. His purpose is not it mine doesn't supersede his at all. He is developing and growing his purpose, right? But I know that it was a struggle earlier when we had people around us that felt that I was doing too much. I shouldn't do as much as I'm doing. It should be him that was leading it. And there was a time when there was a struggle around, no, I know that God has called me to this and I need to do it, but it was a challenge. There was a time when it was a challenge because when you're in circles for so long, they influence how you think and what you believe and how you live out those beliefs in your home. And these are some of the things that can cause conflict. These are some of the things that can cause conflict. But God resolved it. I have to say that, and I was sharing with my friend earlier that when Shola and her husband came, they did a marriage weekend. Don't remember how many years ago, many years ago, maybe close to 8 years ago. They did a marriage weekend with a small group of us, and we didn't know them. That was my first time meeting them. But the thing that they talked about was exactly where we were and what we needed. And it was just and we didn't go until the last night, right? It was such a blessing because it really helped us to have conversations that we needed to have. So sometimes if we're individually growing, sometimes what we learn in religious circles can try to shape that individual growth, try to shape our purpose, and try to even stop us from supporting each other's purpose because it's almost automatic in some conservative circles that the woman must stay in the background and it's the man that must be at the forefront. And we also had a really good spiritual mentor. My husband had a really good spiritual mentor that also helped in this way because we had to unlearn a lot of narratives we had to unlearn in order to be able to do it. To unlearn a lot of religious narratives to do it. So, but a healthy marriages allow space for personal goals, for healthy journeys, and for individual development, where one person can support the next one in their individual growth, and we're individually taking our individual growth to the space where we can grow, where we can stay connected, and it's not something that is going to pull us apart. Also, staying spiritually connected is important. The Bible says wherever Abraham went, he built an altar to the Lord. And everybody in Abraham's compound worshiped, right? The family altar is a very important part of staying connected. The family altar. The couple that prays together stays together, right? So we want to pray together in our homes. We want to pray together individually. We want to have individual, you want to have individual time together as a couple. Now, that doesn't have to be every day because it might not be realistic with everybody working and their children and things. You might not be able to have couples worship and family worship every day. You will not have the time to do all of that. But if you try to connect together a couple times a week as a couple, that is going to be helpful, right? So grow together spiritually. And again, this in certain seasons you might be able to do it more than other seasons. In certain seasons you might be able to do it every day. Other seasons you might be able to touch base once a week, touch base spiritually. So that's as well as the family worship, but the individual time, touch base, try to stay connected spiritually. So Ecclesiastes 4 verse 12 says, a cord of three strands is not quickly broken. So that's you, your partner, and the Lord. It's a unbeatable trio, right? So we want God to be a part of our growth and our growing together. We want him to be a part of that. So stay spiritually connected. Pray together, pray for each other, pray with each other. Encourage each other in the faith. Encourage each other when you're becoming discouraged. Is your husband or wife a place that you can go with your discouragement of faith? Can you talk honestly about where you are in your faith journey and you're not shamed and you're not insulted and it's not used against you, but you can honestly say, this is where I am and it's not okay. Yeah. And growing in purpose together. Maybe find something to do together spiritually. Do a short mission trip. Don't expect that that is going to be the thing though, a mission trip won't save the marriage that needs therapy. Definitely do therapy. But I'm thinking of spiritual things to do together. Do things together in the church. Serve in some department together. It doesn't have to be in leadership. Support a department and do grow together. Do daily habits that build growth. Small things matter most. Check in daily. How are you doing? How are you doing? Send a message, send a heart, an emoji, a smiley face, something that makes the other person smile. Check in daily. Express appreciation, especially if that is your partner's relational need. Say, I really thank you for working. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate what you're doing. And, express appreciation. If encouragement is part of their relational need, that is going to light them up, right? It will be like giving them a hug because the words of encouragement is meaningful to them and you're expressing appreciation. Physical touch for the person who likes physical touch. Um, I have to say, I always have to, I think from a trauma-informed place, right? So even in marriages, where you might have one partner that has experienced sexual trauma, physical touch, while that is a good thing that helps you to grow together, have a conversation. You might want to do it in certain ways that might be triggering for your partner. And when we're mindful of those things, it can also helps to connect because certain things might not be okay for them. You know, everybody, other people might be happy with a slap as you walk past. Some people that they might be shocked and triggered by that. And so a conversation around what safe touch might look like and what can we do here might be useful. And this might feel so unromantic, but it is very romantic because for the person who experienced sexual trauma who weren't asked about touch, and you are going to have a conversation around what safe touch will be like that we can use to develop closeness in our relationship, that is going to be beautiful to them. They're going to be feeling seen and loved, right? So it's important to have that conversation and quality time, spending time together. You know, the other day I talked about things to do in quality time, things that don't cost money, right? To do. I love going hiking and hiking. I'm gonna say hiking. I'm warming up to rough camping. I think I want to try it this spring and summer. Um, but things that don't cost any money if you like nature, I love nature, and we live near the hills. There are lots of hills and things like that around, and wonderful places to spend time that you don't have to pay a penny. And it's beautiful, and it's you and God and your partner out there in nature. So find things like that to do. If you live in the US, there are many places. I know you might have to travel from your state, but you never know. Sometimes we never know the things that are right on our doorstep, you know? And listening intentionally. Growth happens, remember, in everyday moments. In everyday moments, that's when growth happens. So here's another thing that I want you to think about as well, growing together and staying connected. If somebody is building, we talk about individual purpose. If you notice that your partner's individual purpose is big, you're like, this is going to grow them. If they're studying, they're doing a PhD, they're starting a business, they're promotions at work, they're growing in those areas, you do something to grow as well. So read a book, listen to podcasts, attend workshops, do your own growth. It doesn't have to be the same thing that they're doing, but you do your own growth so that when you come together, the conversation is not just you listening and them talking. You have your own growth experience to share as well. When I'm doing premarital counseling, that's one thing I say to couples, make sure you grow together. If they're growing, you grow. Do something. Learn crochet, learn to knit, make hats, join a group, do something that is going to ensure that you're growing as well. So here's some barriers to growth. Fear of change is a barrier to growth. Pride is a barrier to growth. Selfishness is a barrier to growth. Unhealed wounds is a barrier to growth. Poor communication is a barrier to growth. Those things will prevent growth. Growth requires people who are humble, people who are patient, loving, and kind, people who are able to offer grace to the next person. Those things are the things that helps growth. So we want to also think about what are the barriers for me? Where am I resistant to growth? And where do I see my partner growing and I'm not growing? Also, envy. There are people who envy their partners growing. Envy can can be a barrier for growth. And here's where fear might show up. If the growth means visibility, if you are afraid of success and your partner's growth is making them successful, it's so crazy how these things might be a barrier to growth. Communication, I said poor communication is a barrier because if you need to invest more time in the thing that you're doing to grow, that means you're going to have not enough time for the family. That needs to be communicated. This is this season. I need some time. Please bear with me, right? It doesn't mean that you're going to ignore. It just means that you might not have as much time as you had before. And it's really important. And that's where the humility comes in. So you can't grow so big that you become too big for humility, right? We still want to stay grounded, keep our feet on the ground while we're growing. So, but remember, if the barriers come and growth happens and disconnection happens, remember that we can reconnect. Reconnection is possible. Growth can restart, right? Connection can be rebuilt, change can happen, and we can get used to it. Humility can be cultivated, communication can be learned. We can learn how to communicate, we can learn how to understand, we can learn how to repair if growth is happening and it's causing a disconnection. Remember that. So, in closing, growth in marriage is intentional. Any growth and friendship and communication must be nurtured. Conflict doesn't have to rip us apart. It can, when we have tools to repair, it can actually strengthen the connection. Individual growth is necessary and it's meaningful and it matters. And small daily actions can build strong marriages. All right. I want to thank you for listening today. We're going to spend some time. We have about 10 minutes to answer questions. Any questions that you have. If you're on YouTube, you can put your questions in the live chat section and we'll be happy to answer those. So let's hear your thoughts and your questions on growth. Let me see what's in the chat. Lack of knowledge, culture, religion, society can also cause. So are you talking about barriers, Maricela? It takes lots of patience to go through each other's growth.
Yes,
It does
yes.
indeed. Yeah, it does take patience. And those things that you mentioned for sure, they can be a barrier to growth. Cultural ideas and stuff like that. Oh, any questions? While you're thinking about your questions or thinking about raising your hand or doing a reflection, I want to remind you about the Relationship Bootcamp, April 13 to 18. But before that, we're having Hilton back on Sunday for the Inside Out community. And if you want to be a part of that, I'm going to put our admin email address. It should be on the website by this afternoon. But if you email admin at Wounds to Scars, they will send you out the details to be able to register so that you can be a part with us on Sunday afternoon. So that will be 6 p.m. UK time. I think it will be 2 p.m. EDT. How do you get over the pain of failure in marriage, especially when you've disobeyed the will of God? Forgiving yourself, one, and accepting God's forgiveness, two, because God forgives you. If you know that you've went outside the will of God and you're feeling that, he says if we confess our sins, he's faithful and just to forgive us and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. And so all we have to do is to confess and to accept his forgiveness and to forgive ourselves when we have gone outside of his will. And how do you get over the pain? The first part of your question is through, finding spaces where you can process and heal from that. Um, Marriages fail for many, many different reasons. What's important is that you're not taking on all of why it failed and you're putting everything at your door, you know? You can take responsibility for what's yours and and heal from that. Forgive yourself, accept the forgiveness of God, and then leave what's not yours. It wouldn't be fair if you take everything unless it's an abusive marriage and you're saying you were abusive, but that's not what you're saying. So if you just forgive yourself and accept the forgiveness of God, the consequences are real and long lasting. That is true. Consequences can be hard. That is true. But there's a text that I love to quote, and I wish I had my Bible near me. Micah 7, verse 9. Micah says, I will bear the indignation of the Lord until he plead my cause and execute righteousness for me. And there's, I think, further on in Micah chapter 7, when he talks some more about who God is. And whenever I think about bearing consequences, I think about Micah. Micah, Micah 7. Whenever I think about consequences, I think about Micah because he gives me an image of God that is so kind, you know? In Micah 7, verse 9, it says, because I have sinned against him, I will bear the Lord's wrath. until he pleads my case and upholds my cause. He will bring me out into the light. I will see his righteousness. Isn't that full of grace? That is full of so much grace to me. I love it. He said, because I sinned, but here is who God is. And in verse 18, Micah said further, he says, who is a God like you, who pardons sin and forgives the transgression of the remnant of his inheritance? You do not stay angry forever, but but delight to show mercy. You will again have compassion on us. You will tread our sins underfoot and hurl all our iniquities into the depths of the sea. You will be faithful to Jacob and show love to Abraham as you pledge an oath to our ancestors in days long ago. That says grace to me. So I hope that as you reflect on and be with the consequences of what you said you've done, that you'll remember who God is. He is faithful. He is faithful. There's a question sent privately. How do you grow in a relationship while an in-law lives with you and is also a contributor factor to some of the problems? That is a challenge. That is a challenge. And remember, and I don't know if you were here at the beginning when I talk about how to unite against challenges. So you and your partner needs to have a sit down, exclusive sit down. You may need to do that with a therapist, a coach. Sit down with somebody who can help you to navigate a conversation where you are uniting and the in-law is a guest in your home. They're not a part of the marriage, because that is a slippery slope to the demise of a relationship. I have never seen a case where a relationship survived that, right? So if you and your partner needs to come together. Now I know that sometimes if it's a mother or a father, if it's a parent, or elderly relative, siblings too. But when it's parents, people can have strong views about their parents and their parents living with them. And, the Bible says leave and cleave, right? But sometimes I understand life. Sometimes our parents have to live with us. However, there needs to be very clear boundaries around the marriage so that no in-law gets to have any say in marriage conversations, decision making, how the home is run, none of those things. They stay on the outside of that. They're not allowed in. So if they're in, there needs to be a conversation with you and your partner and a therapist, coach, pastor who can help you guys to put some boundaries in place. Now, the person who goes and communicate that boundary needs to be the person who is the relative of that person who lives with you, not you. Because if you go and communicate that, it's going to bring resentment. They're going to see it as you not wanting them there, you, whatever. So if it's my mother, I need to go talk to my mother and say, look, mom, you are interfering. You are this. This mustn't happen. Here is what we're going to do from here on. If it's your husband's mother, they need to have the conversation. I know that this can be complex because culturally, the role that patriarchs and matriarchs might have. However, it's still, the conversation still needs to happen if any growth is going to happen. So I hope I'm not giving you more things to do and more things to kind of worry about, but I would pray about it, prayerfully, go with this conversation around getting some help for that to happen. The text I read was from Micah. I read rather Micah 7 verse 9, and then from verse 18 to the end. No, it's not the end. Read Micah 7 verse 9 and then 18 to 20. Yes, it's the end. Micah 7 verse 9 and then 18 to 20. Okay, everybody, I want to thank you for joining us in these sessions this week. We don't know what we're doing from next week yet, but I want to remind you about the relationship boot camp, and invite you to come along to this relationship boot camp. We might do something next week to celebrate because this month, March, is 11 years since Wounds to Scars, since our inception. And it was this week I was reflecting on it. I thought I've not done anything for our anniversary. So I'll see what we do in our 11-year anniversary week. All right. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a great rest of the day and enjoy your weekend.
Same to you, Joe. Bye bye, everybody. Happy